Happy Spiritual Sunday to you all. And yes, as you can see, I'm not in Florida, I am in Los Angeles. And so there's a saying, actions speak louder than words. But we affirm, which we're going to do here in a bit, that consciousness is everything. So what is it? Words, actions, or consciousness? That we're going to learn today. But as we always do, we read something from Karen, and in this case, we have a book, God Wears Lipstick. And in the beginning, there's a little bit of the history. If you haven't read Two Unlikely People, which I encourage you to do, so here's a little piece of the story. The Rav had learned from his teacher for 8 years, from Rav Brandwein, this wisdom of Kabbalah. And he was the next master Kabbalist in the lineage, the Rav Berg, Rav Brandwein, his teacher, and the teacher of Rav Brandwein was Rav Yehuda Ashlag, greatest Kabbalist in the last probably 500 years, maybe even 1,000 years. And so the Rav now has the responsibility of bringing this pure, true wisdom or authentic wisdom of Kabbalah into the world. But up to that point, it was only taught to very orthodox, learned Jewish men. And even though that's supposed to be the requirement to learn Kabbalah, Rav Ashlag, Rav Brandwein, and ultimately the Rav and Karen had a lot of trouble, a lot of challenges. And even Rav Ashlag and Rav Brandwein were beat up, excommunicated, had terrible things done to them, even though they were only teaching these supposedly over 40, married, Orthodox, learned Jewish men. And so Karen came along, of course with the blessing of Rav Brandwein, which I encourage you to read that in the book Two Unlikely People. But here's just a piece of it. Karen is saying like this. So I asked the Rav, what about the person who is unhappy or who has a certain kind of karma or was born under a particular sign? If everything happens for a reason, then issues like astrology, reincarnation, and past life experience, which I know to be true, must be included in your, speaking to the Rav, your Kabbalistic book somewhere. If Kabbalistic teachings really have a truth, then they must incorporate these experiences as well. This prompted the Rav to start looking and studying more. In the writings of Rabbi Isaac Luria, the famed 16th century Spanish Kabbalist, who is also known as the Ari, the lion, he found the gates of reincarnation, and in the Book of Formation, the first recorded document of Kabbalah, written some 4,000 years ago by the patriarch Abraham, he found a whole universe of astrology. We soon began studying this wisdom together. Finally, I said, look, if I can understand these teachings, parentheses, and I'm not such a great soul, parentheses, which I have my questions about, then others can too. Let's open the Kabbalah Center to everyone. How do you want to give the classes? The Rav asked me. Men and women together. What? He responded. The thought of women learning Kabbalah was hard enough. But women learning Kabbalah together with men? That was unheard of. Forget about it, he shot back. What can happen? I asked. Women will get murdered, he said. But I've been rebellious and stubborn all my life, so I insisted on opening the wisdom of Kabbalah to everyone, regardless of race, gender, or religious belief. When we are on a spiritual path, we are seeking to reconnect with Spirit, the light of the Creator. This Spirit has no name. It is not Christian, Jewish, or Buddhist. It is not male or female. It is not limited in any way. It is just Spirit, existing far beyond the confines of any faith, any particular faith. It has no gender. If I could do it, other women should be able to connect with this wisdom as well. Yet, it wasn't easy to open the teachings of Kabbalah to the whole world. Historically, Kabbalah has been reserved only for the most advanced scholars. By making it available to anyone who was interested in it, we were defying a 4,000-year-old tradition. But, despite our difficulties, the study of Kabbalah has become more and more popular, and the Kabbalah Center has grown from a small organization based in Israel to a worldwide entity whose 50 branches have provided instruction for nearly 4 million students. And I believe that the heart of our success lies in the understanding that God is part of each human being. Whatever a person's faith may be, it is developed with tools that I'll share with you in this book. Those tools will enhance your everyday life, but not because God will strike you dead if you don't use them. The tools are there for you, for me, for all of us. God doesn't need them, and from them we should draw pleasure, which is the purpose of our existence here on earth. So, those of you, men or women, who would like to benefit from the book, God Wears Lipstick. And so, as we do every week, let's do our affirmation. We'll do it together. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. And so now, as we spoke about, the saying, actions speak louder than words, but we want to understand how that fits in with consciousness is everything. So let's start with that. Negative actions. I'm sure we've all experienced, hopefully not done too many, but we've experienced negative actions from other people. And in many cases, certainly before we come to Kabbalah, it creates very bad experiences, very bad situations. On the other hand, positive actions can create very positive experiences, can help awaken love, unity, and peace. Words, there's the saying, the pen is mightier than the sword, meaning it has tremendous power. So we also understand that. Negative words can instigate fights, hatred, jealousy, insecurity. And especially today in our world, we hear a lot about hate speech and how it's hurtful, people even being arrested in countries for various types of hate speech. But just in general, hate speech is hateful, And so it can do a lot of harm. On the other hand, also, words, good words, can awaken love, create inspiration, move people as we affirm greater kindness, greater love, greater compassion, greater forgiveness, greater sense of tolerance, and ultimately allow peace, a greater sense of peace to exist between people and greater serenity within us. So then what's consciousness? When we stop to think about it, the word consciousness, essentially meaning what we are conscious of, our state in the moment, happy, sad, light, dark, whatever we may feel. The state of the moment is based on our consciousness because it's the area of thoughts. And the thoughts are the beginning of words and actions. Consciousness, the thoughts in our head are the power, the intention behind our words and actions. it's ultimately what people will feel, whether they're aware or not. It's ultimately what people will feel or be awakened in them from our words and actions. In Kabbalistic terms, words and actions are the vessel, they're the conduit, they're the carriers. It's our thoughts and our thought energy that fills those vessels. And therefore, our intention, our consciousness, the thought behind the words and the actions determine what part of a person will be awakened, what part of a person will be activated by our words and actions. We've all had the experience of hearing nice words, but not feeling the niceness in it, not being awakened to a greater sense of connecting to that person. So, in Kabbalistic terms, what really is consciousness? It's based on, as we often speak of, or for sure, if you've taken Kabbalah 1, you've learned this. Consciousness is the essence of those two streams of thoughts that are traveling through our head 24/7. There are only two streams of thoughts traveling through our head 24/7. One stream of consciousness, one stream of thoughts are from what we call the opponent, the adversary, the evil inclination, the Satan, which means challenger in Aramaic, the one that's opposed to our light-like behavior of greater love, kindness, and compassion. The one that's a stream of thoughts about oneself alone, instant gratification, anything that's the opposite of light, anger, fear, jealousy, insecurity, guilt, shame, greed, sadness, blame, victimization. That's flowing through us 24/7 in the head, from the AI program we often call it, right? And then there's the other stream of consciousness. There's the thoughts of love, kindness, and compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, generosity, humility, appreciation. There's also those thoughts that come from our true nature, our true being, the light that's inside of us, the light of the Creator that fills our soul. Each of them are flowing 24/7. Yes, there are only those two streams. The one, when listened and acted upon, leads to instant gratification, but down the road, greater chaos, greater difficulty, greater challenges, more confusion, because it awakens the desire to receive for oneself alone. When we listen to the voice of our soul that's telling us to share our light uncomfortably, when we don't feel like being tolerant or kind or forgiving or even apologizing for one of our negative actions or negative words. When we do shine our light from our soul outward, it's touching the proactive, the light in the other person. And it manifests blessings for us. So the two streams of consciousness are constantly flowing through our mind. And every moment of every day, whether you realize it or not, we are exercising our free will choice of which voice to listen to. And listening to a voice is the powerful influence of what our words and our actions are going to be and what they're going to carry. So like we mentioned a minute ago, we choose not only what voice to listen to, but how we act upon that voice determines for us which path we are going to go down. The path of the opponent, which is instant gratification, but long-term greater chaos and confusion, darkness, or when we listen to the voice of our soul that's encouraging us to shine that light out into the world unconditionally. We are not only brightening our own world, we are also brightening the world for others. Essentially, we are progressing on the mission for which we came, to act like the Creator 24/7. And the only thing that the Creator is now doing, really has ever done, is shining its light 24/7. On us, on the entire universe. We came here to emulate the Creator, shining our light 24/7 unconditionally, to take away our chaos, our confusion, to manifest our blessings, to give us greater guidance and strength when we need to pause, when those buttons of reactivity are being pushed, to have that moment of actual free will decision in the pause when we can now think, do we want to listen to the voice of our opponent, or do we want to listen and follow the voice of our soul? Because whichever choice we make, regardless of what other people do, how other people respond to what we do, that which goes out of us will determine which path we go down. And you and I, because you're here, we desire to move upward on the path of the light, to manifest more of the infinite blessings the Creator put inside of us, reminding ourselves we are not empty of the light. Nobody can take our light. If the universe is infinitely filled with light, then the only way a human being can experience anything less than eternal bliss is because they've chosen in various ways to listen to the voice of their opponent and follow the voice of their opponent, to act in ways that create curtains and veils, hiding the light of their soul, blocking the light of their soul from shining out into their life, taking away darkness, chaos, and confusion, and manifesting light, guidance, strength, blessings of all forms. Think about the last time you were reactive. The last time when your buttons were pushed, you didn't stop and think. You just responded, as we call it, that knee-jerk response, the same way you had done previously. Somebody said or did whatever that pushed your fear button. And as you have set the precedent up to that point of running away out of fear, you just ran away out of fear. You didn't stop and think, is that what you really wanted to do? So even though consciousness is everything, essentially in that moment, it was a moment of unconsciousness, but it was still the moment of the previous thoughts just continuing, the previous stream of thoughts of the opponent that you gave into. What we teach from Kabbalah 1 forward is that simple concept, not easy always to do, but when we have the desire and the determination, we have the power to do it. The moment our buttons are pushed and those negative emotions awakened, we have the power to pause, to stop before we act or speak, and ask, what do we want to come back to us? Which voice do we want to listen to? Which direction do you want your life to go from that moment forward? The path of, heaven forbid, the darkness and all the chaos and the pain and suffering that's involved? Or do you want to choose this time and moving forward to choose acting like, speaking like the light of the Creator? If you really understand it through even the code of the Bible, it's telling us the words of the Creator are love, care, support, inspiring, motivating, guiding us to manifest more of what's inside of us, that pure and perfect light of the Creator, so that we will experience what the Creator has already given us. Eternal bliss, blessings of health, peace, prosperity, guidance, love, joy, protection, all the good things, but not in a temporary, short-term way, in a lasting, eternal, blissful way. That's our choice. And I know some of you now, you're hearing the voice of your opponent say, oh no, if somebody does something nasty to me, I have to answer them back. Otherwise, they'll think I'm weak and they'll just try and walk all over me and take advantage of me. So, as I've heard for almost 40 years now from the Rav and Karen, light is the only thing that will take away darkness. And have you ever seen, even physically, a room that's filled with light, all the bright lights turned on? Have you ever seen darkness overwhelm the light? No. Once darkness attempts to enter into the light, it is transformed, or as we would understand it truly, it is unveiled. And the light that's been hidden inside those veils becomes manifest. The room remains brightly lit. So our job is to understand that when you're shining light, and the more consistently one is shining light, darkness, chaos, being taken advantage of, being hurt by, gets less and less and less. Because as you turn up the light, more and more of the darkness is transformed, unveiled, to reveal the light that it's inside. And yes, if you want to go with that physical example, if you think of, let's say, 20 layers of cloth over a desk lamp, and now you're taking off one layer at a time, yes, there'll be a little more light, a little more light, a little more light. It'll look sort of grayish, let's call it, halfway, and the more you take those veils off, the brighter the light shines outward. So too it is with us. The more veils we remove by transforming our anger into tolerance, our jealousy into appreciation, our sense of lack or greed into generosity, our egos into humility, we're allowing more and more of the light of the Creator to be manifest, more of what's inside of us. That's why we feel, every human being on earth, whether meanwhile acting in a nice way or a not nice way, every human being on earth feels that we are supposed to have, because we do have all the potential energy within us for eternal bliss. And that's why we often speak here on Spiritual Sunday, that even the people who are doing not nice actions or speaking in a not nice way, what essentially they're being motivated by is their desire, the quote, God-given capability to have eternal bliss. Only in the cover of the veils they've created over this and many other lifetimes, the only way that they can get a sense of greater happiness or fulfillment in the cover of those veils is by negative actions. Because the greater the covers, the greater the veils, in their mind, the louder the voice of the opponent. What you and I are learning is essentially by making a greater effort to shine our light through the veils, therefore removing layers of those veils and revealing and manifesting more of our light, we are turning up the voice of our soul, turning down the voice of the opponent, so that we are more influenced by the voice of our soul. Yes, until the voice of our opponent is completely gone, because we're shining all of our light, there'll always be those negative thoughts. And as Karen always reminded us, the higher one grows spiritually, the more veils they're removing, the brighter their light, the greater their blessings, the greater their sense of peace and serenity, the greater compassion we have for others going through difficulties, the greater compassion we have for people who are trapped in their veils, klipot, Kabbalistically, that have to act or are acting in negative ways, the greater we feel it in our heart, the pain of their soul that wants to do greater actions of love and kindness and generosity and appreciation and forgiveness and tolerance. But trapped in those veils, meanwhile, all the negative actions. And then the voice of that opponent, as we grow, becomes more subtle. Not the big things, hatred, stealing. No, it's the more subtle things. Maybe just a little bit of gossip. Maybe just a small unkind word. Maybe just a little bit of selfishness. A little bit of something we think, well, that's not really hurting other people because I'm doing it where nobody can see. But since you and I know that there's only one soul, and as we call it here, the one soul internet, every one of our words, every one of our actions are affecting every human being on earth. There's nothing that we do that's not felt by, may not be seen, perceived by others, but is definitely being felt and is influencing every human being on earth. And this is why you and I here, and all the teachings of the center, and all the teachers of the center, inspiring, guiding, motivating, supporting each of us to act, as we say in our affirmation, with greater love, kindness, and compassion, greater actions of humility, thankfulness, gratitude, generosity, forgiveness, tolerance. Because we want more of our light to manifest in our lives. We want to be more connected to the light of the Creator, or the spirit that's within us, as Karen called it. And therefore, we are determined to make the effort and never give up in acting more and more light-like. We want to say kind words filled with kindness, love. And even if we have to say what externally sounds like harsh words, but when we will fill them with love, with care for the other person, as many of us do as parents. We may have to say strong words to our children. We may even have to have a look of sternness, almost anger, disappointment. But as we will fill those words with love, care for our children, it will reach into their heart and soul. It will pierce through their curtains, their klipot, their veils, their spiritual mud, and awaken more and more of the light in them. So as we say, yes, it is consciousness is everything. Because the consciousness determines what a person will experience from our words and actions. Like the example many Kabbalists talk about. If you have a gold cup covered in diamonds, wow, the vessel is impressive. But is that what people taste? If it's a gold, diamond-encrusted vessel, but it's filled with bitter vinegar, when the person happily accepts the gold cup and then drinks of the bitter vinegar, are they excited? Are they happy? Or do they taste the bitterness, even though it's a wonderful vessel? Kind words filled with hatred, jealousy, anger, judgment will be tasted internally by the other person as anger or hatred or jealousy. It will activate more of their veils. But if you have a clay, plain vessel, but it's filled with the drink of choice, the drink that a person truly enjoys, makes them happy, do they really then care that the vessel looks plain? Because what they take in, what they taste, is sweetness, is love, is compassion, is joy, is care. And so, yes, consciousness is everything. The consciousness that fills our words and actions depends on which voice we choose to listen to inside of us. So even from our point of view, whatever a person says or does that may push one of our reactive buttons, when we pause, then we exercise our free will, because we always, technically 24/7, we always have free will to choose our words and our actions. It's not easy, because we've allowed ourselves to be trained to, if you will even say, put in a trance by that AI program of that voice of opposition, because we've given into it so many times over this lifetime and previous lifetimes that we've allowed it to almost be essentially a default side, our default words, our default actions. And that's why, yes, as many of you have taken the classes or you listen to Spiritual Sunday, it's not an easy thing when our buttons are pushed to stop for that moment. If we decide that we want greater blessings, that we do not want anymore to be just a robot, if you will, or a servant to that AI parasitic voice that's opposing our greater blessings, then we will make greater effort to listen to the voice of our soul, act upon the voice of our soul, but that can only come about when we pause once our buttons are being pushed. So like any great athlete who has, as we've always called it, God-given talents and abilities. When that athlete wants to reach their peak, their highest performance, it's training and practice and training and practice and training and practice until they become proficient at manifesting their internal capabilities. So you and I have been given, quote, God-given ability to act like the Creator 24/7, to shine our light outward regardless of what happens to us, what's going on around us, what people say or do to us directly, to our friends and family, or out in the world. Consciousness really is everything because it's the source of everything we do and say. So let's make a greater effort to increase our consciousness of love, kindness, and compassion to all human beings, because we know that that's what we want to exist in our life. Greater love, kindness, compassion, prosperity, health, peace, and protection. So we need to shine it out into the world. Strengthen that ability by constantly reminding yourself that you are a pure and perfect being of light. Because the grand, great Creator of all created you and me and every person on earth in its image, in its light image, with light powers, light abilities, light strength, with light that will take away all chaos and all darkness. And remember, most of all, that you and I and all humanity are filled with the power of the infinite Creator to manifest heaven on earth, just as the Creator of all manifested the endless world of heaven above. God bless. And so, as we do every week, the greatest project of the center is to spread the Zohar. If you have one, make sure, because you love and care for the other parts of your soul, your one soul that are out there in the other 8.5 billion bodies, you want them to be enlightened also, so that this one soul internet is only influencing you with light and blessings. So make sure you have a Zohar, the little pocket Zohar, the sacred Zohar, any form of the Zohar. And please, if you appreciate this program and you appreciate what you've been learning in the center, just give back. Pay it forward. There have been millions of people who have contributed to the center to allow you and me to be able to have a Kabbalah center that's changed our lives for the better. And so let's make that greater effort to pay it forward to the rest of the people who are unenlightened from this wisdom and these tools. The Zohar, 72 names, Ana B'Koach, the proactive formula tools, and the support and the understanding that, as Karen mentioned, as we read in the beginning from her book, the light has no religion, no faith, is just pure love. That's what we want to spread. Because when people, no matter what race, color, religion, nationality, language, belief system, acts with truly greater love, meaning shining more of their light out unconditionally to every person on earth, the world will become, at an accelerated rate, that heaven on earth that we all desire in our hearts of hearts. So those of you who do contribute regularly, a great thank you with love and appreciation. And remember the blessing that comes back to you if you're influencing all humanity on a soul level. Then all humanity is sending from their soul to your soul greater light and strength to give you and me greater power to increase the listening to the voice of the light in our head, acting like the Creator, and taking away all the pain, suffering, and death from the world. And so I chose this name, Chaf Hei Tav. It's one of the 72 names of God. Most of you who join us, unless you're brand new, you understand that these things we call the Hebrew letters actually are portals of the light of the endless world into our world. They shine with the infinite light. And therefore, because like attracts like, the affinity of form, as they're shining light, through our eyes it reaches directly into our soul. Chaf Hei Tav is to help us take away the influence of negative thoughts, so that we hear more and more strongly, powerfully, motivatingly the voice of our soul, and using the power within us to shine light into the darkness. Chaf Hei Tav. Okay? So I ask you to sit comfortably in your seat, hands in your lap, taking a few deep breaths, breathing in the infinite light of the Creator. Hold it for a moment and exhale through your mouth. Relaxing into the light of the Creator in and around you. Allowing with each exhale, allowing yourself to let go of whatever stress, blockages, anxiety you might be feeling. Letting go of the confusion. And opening up your heart, soul, and mind to the light of the Creator as it flows metaphorically from the upper worlds. As you become more and more aware and conscious that this infinite light fills you completely. And so we envision together Chaf Hei Tav just above your heads. See it radiating with the infinite light of the endless world. Feel the vibration of greater love and serenity. Vibrating with greater thoughts of love, kindness, compassion, appreciation. And now we let it enter through the top of our head, helping us with its power. Chaf Hei Tav. Allow it to flow from head to toe, strengthening the voice of your soul as it passes through your brain, your head, as it passes through your heart, awakening greater love and compassion, breaking free of the negative limiting thoughts that are anything but love your neighbor as yourself. Realizing everyone is a piece of you. And letting it continue, Chaf Hei Tav, that this energy and this light to see, feel, and think more clearly as the light. Chaf Hei Tav, the power of transforming all reactive thoughts into proactive consciousness, and therefore proactive transformational sharing, words and actions. And as you're being awakened to a higher and higher level of that certainty of the pure light beingness that you are, and that all that you need for eternal bliss is inside you, waiting for you to shine it out. Let's together, from our hearts, shine a beacon, a beam of this light, Chaf Hei Tav, to the heart and soul of all your friends and family, piercing through their veils, their curtains, their spiritual mud, into their heart of God, and into their minds, that they hear the voice of their soul more loudly and clearly, removing any negative limiting thoughts. And then we continue to project a beam of that Chaf Hei Tav light through them to the hearts and souls of all humanity, piercing the hatred, the anger, divisiveness, judgment, jealousy, fear, victimization, blame, curtains and veils that are covering their soul, piercing them with this beam of Chaf Hei Tav light, to reach into the heart and soul of the Creator that exists inside every person on earth. And with greater love and desire for peace, eternal peace, as we're beaming this light, we're adding, strengthening that consciousness of Chaf Hei Tav, to take away all of our negative thoughts, take away all of our limiting beliefs, taking away all the thoughts, the false ideas about ourselves and others that we may have held up to now, and allowing our only thought to be one unified soul. Interconnected on a heart, soul, consciousness level by the infinite light of the Creator that fills us and fills the entire universe. Taking from each of us every wonderful transformational action of sharing we've ever done, using the Chaf Hei Tav to connect all the light and all those actions of all humanity over all the lifetimes, to be drawn together now. And in this unity, we beam this light of Chaf Hei Tav directly to that AI program of opposition, selfishness, ego. That we overpower it with love and kindness and compassion. Chaf Hei Tav. That it disintegrates. and the angel of life and the infinite light fills our entire world. And there is peace, unity, love, heaven on earth now. See it, feel it in your heart. And with this strength and desire, clarity, vision of heaven on earth and unity and peace, we commit ourselves to persevere on the path of the light, to accelerate the removal of the darkness and manifesting this vision, heaven on earth for all. We take one more deep breath, anchoring it in heart, soul, and mind, and slowly exhale and open your eyes. Thank you for joining us. God bless, and may we manifest it with all of our work together, and all of us working together, creating that spiritual magnetic force of bringing millions and millions more people to the center to learn this, and tens and hundreds of millions more Zohar in the world to speed up the process of the light taking away the darkness, externally and internally. God bless.